$37 billion. I said like, there's no way this game is worth that much money, and I think that was a time when I realized like this is an industry where some true gaming experience and gaming knowledge could really make a really big difference. I definitely decided to build the Mantle games ecosystem a little bit different from how a lot of the traditional games ecosystems are being built. When it comes to the actual gaming team, every single member have chosen to be ones that know how to actually publish a game. Being able to design and ensure that users are generating value not just for yourself, but also for all these different kind of entities and ecosystems, and getting them to also support you in seeing your game success. I think that's going to be extremely important. We need to start learning how to onboard actual Web 2 players into the Web 3 space.
Hello PlayToEarn family, we're back with another episode of Crypto Game Changers, the only show where we interview entrepreneurs and builders and learn about their journeys and a little bit about the projects. So for this particular episode, we have the head of gaming of Mantle, who is also the lead advisor of the prominent Telegram game Catizen. Welcome Geezee to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Hi. Thanks for having me.
So for our viewers, can you share more about your background and the journey behind how you ended up as the head of gaming at Mantle?
Yeah, I'd say I started with just like traditional games publishing. I've worked on games like Rodeo Stampede, Ragnarok, League of Legends, a Transformers game, a Game of Thrones game, and usually as a head of publishing or head of user acquisition, and acquired about 800 million players into the variety of games I've worked on. And then eventually it became a head of global operations, I guess it was the title. It ended up becoming a little confusing at the time, but leading operations at a games platform called TapTap, which became the largest gaming distribution platform and community in Asia. We reached about 40 million monthly active users and about I think 5 to 6 billion game installs every year in terms of what we're accounting for. So it was scaling pretty well. And then I just saw the Web3 space as one that really could enhance the way that games are built and the games that can be consumed. And so I decided to kind of form my own team, publish some games in a Web3 space, and really learn and experiment in this field. Eventually, saw some successes, definitely saw some failures as well, learned a lot of lessons, and now I'm using those kind of experience and those expertise to support games that are building on Mantle.
Awesome. So you've had good amount of success in Web2 gaming, right? What was the aha moment for you where you went like, hey, Web2 gaming is the next big thing and I gotta hop in? What did you view within Web3 gaming that convinced you to make the jump?
I'd say there's really three big ones. So like one is, I think the user acquisition and user performance ads industry needed a complete new revamp. It was just all the data right now, or traditionally in the original UA industry, is all held by these big conglomerates, Google, Facebook, TikTok, and in the end, when we buy ads or when we try to get users from these ad networks as a game publisher, it always required us to find a way to game the platform to provide the best way to get the highest conversion rates, but not necessarily the best users. And that's because we don't have access to the data to actually better target what kind of users we wanted. And the idea of putting user identity and user behavior on chain allowed us, I think, has a lot of implications on basically providing better recommendations to and better targeting to players so that we can get experiences that they actually wanted from them, rather than trying to always create the most engaging ad, which a lot of times ends up becoming fake ads and becoming scammy kind of projects. So that was one area I really liked. The second thing was the idea of just actual asset ownership in games. So I wrote an article a little while back about this game called Fantasy Westward Journey that was popular in China, and essentially they implemented many elements of a blockchain technology inside this massive game, and it ended up becoming NetEase's flagship game, generating over $26 billion over 10 years. And a lot of the reason for why they were able to create something so sustainable was because they implemented a lot of the philosophies of interoperability and like permanence, consensus, all these things enabled users to actually trust the project, to trust these assets enough to continuously become part of that economic system inside the game
Hmm.
and continuously propel it to today. And the last thing was that around, I think it was like the peak of Axie Infinity. That was when I was, just everyone was talking about it. I decided to try it out myself, played the game, thought it was good, but then I saw the market cap and saw that was like, 36, $37 billion. I said there's no way this game is worth that much money. And, I end up shorting the Axie token and, it really ended up working out pretty well for me. And I think that was a time when I realized like, this is an industry where some true gaming experience and gaming knowledge could really make a really big difference. And I thought that was a good place for me to leave my own mark in this games industry.
Awesome, awesome. No, those are very interesting points. So now you're at Mantle, and I want to understand more about how many games are currently building on Mantle, and what's the current focus of Mantle in terms of gaming? Because I know it's not purely gaming on Mantle. So can you share a bit more about the gaming focus at Mantle?
Yeah, so the game side on Mantle is Uh, I definitely decided to build the Mantle Games ecosystem a little bit different from how a lot of the traditional games ecosystems are being built. One of the big one differences is that the team I built all come from a games background, similar to mine, where they have experience in games publishing and games operations, and so live ops. And this is
Hmm.
something where, we still have a finance team. We still have like these a eco fund team that is, very savvy and very strong when it comes to like investments and deal structuring and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual gaming team, every single member have chosen to be ones that know how to actually publish a game. And the reason I did that was so that we can actually get a lot more hands-on with the projects that we work with. So, for example, when it comes to something like Catizen, which is one that we end up, I think end up doing pretty well compared to in this market, and one of the more successful cases, we were able to get involved from everything from fundraising to standard marketing to user growth, but then much deeper into actually tokenomics design, gameplay design. We got involved into the idea of actually designing a lot of the campaigns and formulating a lot of the structures, and this kind of provided us the ability to become like understand the game enough to actually be comfortable to structure out a multi-chain kind of deal where we knew that they were able to also launch on, let's say, Ton, and be able to create a lot of value for Ton as well, while also generating a lot of activity and bring a lot of users to Mantle. So it gave us a lot of flexibility when we got this in depth with our gaming partners. And as you can imagine, this is a very resource and time intensive kind of approach.
Hmm.
So instead of going out there and just trying to, win 500 games onto Mantle, we actually only just chose to work with 7 games, and 7 games that we want to get very closely in tied with and make sure that they become successful, become, industry leading case studies before we start scaling and taking the tools and the experience that we did in terms of building these successful case studies and providing a more scalable model to them.
So, would it be fair to say Catizen is the most successful game currently on Mantle? Would that be fair to say?
Yes, we in terms of like this kind of like the 7 big games that we want to launch, Catizen is the first one that came out. So yes, I'd say given that it's the only one of the 7 that's out yet, it's the most successful one as well.
All right. So they had their TGE recently, and I'm aware that they're one of the largest Telegram games. What sort of numbers are we looking at in terms of DAU, on-chain users, revenue? Because I believe it's if not the largest, I believe it's one of the largest.
Yes. So I actually, with the team, we end up doing a post-mortem and going through our demographics, going through our, user conversion rates, everything, and we posted it, made a post on the Catizen Twitter post that shows all these statistics. Like we want to be very transparent. In many ways, the people who end up investing in like holding Caddy tokens are also investors in the project, and no, they have a right to know, we think, in terms of how well the project's doing. I can give a sense of upon PG what we achieved. We were at about uh we're at about 37 million players at that time. We had about 1.1 million paying users. So, out of the 1.1 million paying users, the average revenue per user was about $27. So
Crazy.
we were close to about $30 million worth of revenue in the first 6 months of launch. And then uh, yeah, those are some of the
So,
high level numbers that
so,
they've also improved since then.
so how does Catizen generate revenue? I know there must be microtransactions, obviously, but can you get into specifics about the revenue model here for a Telegram game?
It's actually very simple. So, the game is also very simple in the sense that it's meant to be, the first of a series of like 20 games, and the one to introduce users to this ecosystem, to the Catizen Game Center, to everything. And so we made sure to make the game. It's still fun, it's still addicting, but we made sure to make it very, very understandable so that users could, onboard much easier. And so basically, you have cats. You're a owner of a cat cafe, and then your cats can level up, and you can free to play to level up your cats, and then you can also basically speed up the leveling up process by using our in-game premium currency called fish, and then
Mhm.
basically fish can be bought through either using MNT or using Ton, or also using now Caddy, now that our tokens launch. And before that, you could use Telegram stars as well. So there's a variety of ways to buy a fish, but either way, when you buy it, that's revenue being generated for Catizen.
So, these are all large numbers, and this is around the time of TGE. Post TGE, have you seen any change in these numbers in terms of the number of active players or in the revenue? Have been any changes like after the airdrop?
So I can say there's definitely a portion of users, and maybe some of them also bots, where they are, they've gotten what they think they could out of the game, and end up, like being a little bit less active in it. But now that Kazan end up announcing our kind of like future plans, and Kazan was never just meant to be a single
Yeah.
like airdrop farm. It was always meant to be a games platform, a pretty large ecosystem to where holders of Caddy could also end up supporting more games on Telegram, and being able to also even vote for eventually what kind of airdrops or from which games they like to see airdrops from next. And then there's this whole ecosystem. And now that this thing is slowly being unveiled, and users are seeing a lot more, potential in their the leveling up their cats, and keeping the game going, there's our activity has been going back up again. So like our growth was slowing down a bit post TG, but then
Mhm.
now it's actually ramped up
That,
quite significantly since then.
and I thought so. Usually games do experience that post TGE, but it's good to hear that it's coming back up. So I'm also curious, what type of demographics are currently playing these type of Telegram games? When you say 36 million, which regions does this 36 million comprise of?
So there's a big like background in terms of instead of going by like region specific, we end up splitting it users based on the language they play the game in, because uh, a lot of players like use VPNs and use create accounts in different places, and it tends to be more representative of like the type of user we have based on the language that they use. And the default language is English. So
Hmm.
English is, I think, just over 50%, just over half is of the users are English from the English region, and then we have a very large portion of users coming from the more Slavic regions. So I
Hmm.
think Russian is about 22, or is it 21 to 22% of the users are from Russia. And
Hmm.
then Europe, Southeast Asia all have, anywhere from like 1 to 10% of that user base. So I think we actually have a lot of users from France as well, if I
Hmm.
remember correctly. Then in terms of like the highest conversion or the highest revenue generating per user basis, like highest quality users is definitely from Japan.
Ooh.
Japan for some reason has just a ridiculously high paid conversion rate right now.
That is a very interesting insight, and I believe all the viewers will find a lot of value from that. So now Catizen has already scaled. What about the initial days? What was the initial user acquisition strategy here, and what was the go-to-market strategy in the initial days?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we did that's very early on was that we ran a lot of like we just worked together with Mantle and ran, or actually I should say from Mantle's perspective, we worked very closely with Catizen to run a ton of different campaigns and just test everything out. We worked with every single ad network that existed. We worked with Sleeves, we worked with the ad hoc or whatever that one was called. We worked with all these different communities and partnerships. We work with OKX Wallet, Binance Wallet, Bybit Wallet. We work with exchanges as well. And basically, like the ones that we found most efficient, we end up doing more partnerships with them. The ones that were less efficient and performing less, we end up decreasing the priority and doing less kind of partnerships with them. And it was a long growing process of just kind of testing a lot of the things out together. One of the kind of more I guess advantages that we had was that the gameplay loop and the kind of like user behavior was something that we were already very well prepped for, given the team's background in working on Telegram mini games, WeChat mini games, in since 2017. So they've iterated for already close to like 5, 6 years on building a game that's based on a social messaging platform that all the how the referral programs work, what the rewards need to be to get users, like feeling incentivized to go out there and do stuff for you, and then everything in that sense has already been essentially pretty well iterated upon by the time Kazan actually launched on Telegram.
Oh, this is very interesting. So when you say partnerships and with all these projects, what sort of marketing activations are we looking at? Is it giveaways? Is it some sort of other collaborations? What was the major driver in terms of the specific marketing activation? Are there any insights over there?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we tried everything too, and we tried giveaways, we tried like brand collaborations and stuff, and uh, they all have their variety, like their own degree of success, right? And they all bring in users, but different types. And it's not just like how many users they bring in, it's also the quality of users that we also care about. We want
Yep.
users that are actively engaged in the game that are coming back, not the ones that, like open up the app for 5 seconds and then never appear again. That doesn't really help anyone. And then so this was something that we end up leveraging a lot of the resources from both the Ton and Mantle ecosystems to be able to reach out to be able to establish these type of partnerships. One of the I think like early stage exciting ones was our partnership with let's say Notcoin, where it wasn't like any specific giveaway, but basically we provided a use case for Notcoin where users can buy instead of buying fish through fiat or through MNT, they could buy fish through Notcoin. And in terms of value, they could actually get fish at, I think it was like 300% higher value. So basically get fish at like a close to about like a 70% discount, but it
Oh.
was like a almost single gift package that was only available once per user. And this was something that we end up seeing, I think, 50 million Notcoin spent inside Kazan in like a 1 week period. And then we committed to burning about 10% of that. So 5 million was burnt after that first week of Notcoin was burnt that first week. And collaborations like that also uh, proved to have a certain, quite a bit of effectiveness as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, and and I imagine that there must be a lot of community exchange between, let's say, Notcoin and Catizen as well. But with these new wave of Telegram games, is having a Discord or Telegram community still relevant for these games? Because I know in the initial days you used to nurture the community within Discord or within Telegram, and then you grow them up slightly. So how relevant is it for these type of Telegram games right now?
Uh, it's still very relevant. Like it's still important, I think, to have a channel for us to make official announcements. And one of the kind of uh, inherent natures of Web3 games is the kind of earning element to it or the financial element to it. That's something that I don't think is going to go anywhere anytime soon. Despite me being, decently opposed against games that has the only purpose of like, or I'm not a big fan of, games where the only purpose of playing it is to try and make money out of it. I think that's, more of a gambling product rather than or a financial instrument rather than a game. But there's always going to be that financial element into blockchain games. And when there is a financial element to it, the people need like a trusted source to be able to get official announcements. And somewhere where to be able to help avoid a lot of the more scammy things that end up coming around the project. And so I do think it's very important to have their official community channels, ones where users, especially ones that are like financially invested into the project, have a source of like undeniable truth that they can access, that they can see in terms of to avoid being scammed or being hurt on a financial perspective. So yeah, I think it's still very important, but the role is a little bit different than I think than what we see before, where it's like the community has to be on Discord or has to be on in a Telegram group for it to be able to grow. That I think that role is not as important in for a game like Catizen.
Interesting. So yeah, one more question that comes that keeps popping up is the marketing budgets. Some games believe, or some builders believe, that you need to have a large marketing budget to scale a game to the level that Catizen has. What is your opinion? Like, what sort of marketing budgets would games require in order to scale this way? Or is it mostly about the partnerships and collaborations?
Uh, I mean, even partnership collaborations, it helps to have a budget to tie to it. Like it helps to have, when we did our collaboration with Bybit Wallet, it was great to do a collaboration with them. It was even better that we had a 200,000 MNT prize pool for users to come in, essentially like incentivize users to engage. So yeah, I'd say yeah, get a marketing budget. It's definitely helpful. Be careful in terms of the way to spend it, though. I think like a lot of developers are under the impression that like just money is all that's required, but it also came down to the idea of like this money. First of all, where it came from. If it's coming straight from your investors, uh, and like your investors are okay with it, I mean, go for it. But the way that like we end up structuring Catizen was that the users that we onboarded into Web3 was not just users that were good for Catizen or valuable to Catizen. We restructured it so that these users provided value to a lot of different ecosystems. So they provided a lot of value to Mantle, provide a lot more activity on Mantle. They provide a lot of activity on Ton. They provided activity for Bybit, Binance, the centralized exchanges for these wallets. And so because we were able to provide this value through our users to all these platforms, we also got them to kind of take on that burden of the marketing budget alongside us. So, for example, like, I'd say throughout the first 6 months of Catizen launch, we probably, from the Mantle side, put out close to 1.5 million MNT into the hands of Catizen players on Mantle to help do in terms of through various campaigns, essentially through marketing to help bring more engagement and activity to these users. And from a Mantle perspective, we're happy to do that for a game or for our users, as it also brings a lot more activity and brings a stronger community to our ecosystem as well. So yes, marketing budget is important, but I think it's much more important also in terms of how you end up getting that budget and finding a way to be able to get more people supporting you in terms of acquiring those users.
Thank you for that insight. I think a lot of builders will find a lot of value from what you've just shared here. And we're coming close to the end of the interview, so I want to, ask what are the three most important things that builders need to know right now from your experience when they're going about their building journey, especially in Web3 gaming.
I think one of the big things, what I just touched on, is really the big one, is to understand that like right now the Web3 gaming space is uh it's a pretty tough space where the cost per user is actually extremely high. It's very like especially cost per like effective user, like a valuable user, one that is not coming from some third world country and not going to spend any money in your game. Like if you want one that's actually engaged and willing to spend money inside your game and stuff, that cost per user acquisition is very, very high in the Web3 space. So being able to design and ensure that users are generating value not just for yourself but also for all these different kind of entities and ecosystems, and getting them to also support you in seeing your game success, I think that's going to be extremely important for the success of any new project. Like even Hamster Combat, Notcoin, like they got they not only just did all this themselves, they got the support of Ton, they got the support of Binance, Bybit, they got the support of all these different key entities to help them build up their game and build up their user base. The second is that like I know on Dap Radar a while back that there's like that announcement we say like, hey, the Web3 gaming space is growing, at a very fast rate. We're at 10 million DAU now. But if you really look at those numbers, the amount of users that are coming in from like North America has actually gone down. The LTV, ARPU, ARPDAU, the actual revenue generated per user is also going down, meaning we're just getting an influx of either bots or very low quality users into this Web3 gaming space. And if a game really wants to succeed and create something that's truly sustainable, we need to start learning how to onboard actual Web2 players into the Web3 space, or actually get traditional real gamers that are willing to spend money in the game to start playing your Web3 game. And I think that's something where just it's not just, well, it kind of goes back to that first point. It's just very resource intensive to be able to get these type of users into your project. And so, finding the right partners to support you into getting this done is very, very crucial. Third one, I guess, just build on Mantle. Like work Mantle. There really is, I think, we're a pretty different chain in the sense that everyone on my team really does understand gaming or comes from a background and working on gaming. So that's the reason why like we're able to see like these kind of successes coming out and building up these type of projects, because we actually do a very hands-on approach in terms of supporting our gaming projects. And whereas I think a lot of the other ecosystems can only really just give a grant or give some marketing support, which we can do too. We have a pretty big fund, but I think it really needs to go far beyond that before it's truly valuable for a game publisher or a game developer.
Awesome. I gotta say, Geezee, this has probably been one of the most insightful conversations that we have had in on crypto game changers, and especially it's very relevant in the current context. So thank you for sharing all these insights. I believe all the builders and viewers will derive a lot of value from this episode. But that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Geezee, for coming on to the show. Thank you for taking the time to educate us and to guide us as well. And awesome. So for all of you listening, we'll catch you in the next one.